We've heard a lot from the Bitcoin bugs and the gold bugs about how inflationary hedges are the purpose for these two asset classes. I want to bring in Scott Bowers joining us, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. Scott, the only catch is they didn't store any value during our sell-off when people needed it most. And now they're rallying back with stocks.
Right.
So come on, they're risk assets, right?
That's what they say, right, Oliver? I mean, I don't know at this point. But you're right. You know, I think when we saw Bitcoin really get hit a couple weeks ago, which was almost in line when gold did also, when the market was selling off and these asset classes were selling off, I think people were dumping these to, get margin calls to, pay on the other side. So, I think that's what we saw a couple weeks ago. And now you see these rallies intact here, but I don't know that I believe it.
Scott, and again, I've given you props on this before because I've been trying to give the Bitcoin guys a chance, right? To say this is something that's going to trade based on Fed action. It's going to trade based on repo markets, balance sheet expansion, but it doesn't look like that, right? And at some point, we're going to have to make some call. I know there's an argument here that, you got to give it time. You got to give it time eventually. And now this is the straw that'll break the camel's back, this balance sheet expansion, this QE, and we get inflation there. But it seems like there's a lot of markets right now that are assuming inflation is going to be bunk. So if there is some inflation scare and people are getting slammed on their bonds or they're getting slammed on their stocks, then why wouldn't they go back to take the money back out of these things where they just, took it out of when the times got tough? It's hard for me to find the logic now.
Yeah. No doubt about it. And I think the true test, if there is a true test, and it's probably been said quite a bit before, at least for Bitcoin, is when we get through this time that we're in right now, whether it's, a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, and we get a market that's, back to, let's call it normalized trading with VIX, 20-ish or mid-teens, things, back to work, the economy back to work here. Let's see how Bitcoin reacts at that point, because that will really have put us, I would say, through almost one complete cycle, economic cycle, that since Bitcoin has been around. The boom of the economy, the bust of the economy, and hopefully, a rebirth of the economy again sooner rather than later. Let's see how Bitcoin reacts at that point. And if it, if it doesn't react pretty well, then, the bears are going to have the upper hand, in my opinion.
What about trading it? I know you used to trade this, Scott. Are you interested in doing it now? Are there discernible levels? I mean, I guess one could argue here. I know, again, this is like the Rorschach test of how you feel about Bitcoin. It's either in an uptrend since the beginning of its existence, or it's in a downtrend since it launched for futures, which is what we look at. And since it's been the most transparent market in its history, it's downtrending. But how do you perceive trend for this? Are there ways you can trade this right now?
Yeah, there are. You can trade it through futures. There are actually some options out there as well. But I will tell you, over the last couple months with the volatility that we've seen in the metals, particularly gold, I preferred to trade the gold market rather than Bitcoin, as that store of hedged, sort of play there. But you can look at Bitcoin, which is up, 7% today, trading about 7,300. And I think the next point of resistance, significant resistance, is about 77.50. That would be a spot that I would look to potentially short it there. But I would much rather do something in gold right now, given not only the liquidity, but the massive amount of volatility that we're seeing. I think it's a great trade right now.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it. 77.50. We'll look for it. We'll check back in with you then, Scott. I can see where you're getting it from, kind of a lot of trading activity around a high 7,000. Let's keep it going here with tech and futuristic topics. Scott Bowers, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. Appreciate it as always.